Thank you very much for attending this webinar. And today we're going to talk about how to set up your home office for online meetings. Online meetings are something which is not always easy to manage. And the objective today is to cover how do you set up your office to be in perfect conditions to do online meetings with your colleagues. Before we start about the main topic, I will introduce myself. My name is Pierre Morsa, and I am one of the co-founders of Ideas on Stage, which is a company specialized in presentations. The reason why I am covering this topic is because I have a lot of experience covering home office setup, and I have a personal blog on which I speak about productivity. And I have been animating that blog for more than 10 years now. So I have some experience. And of course, some of you probably do have some experience too. So don't hesitate to share your own experience and tips if you have something you think is worthwhile to share with the other participants of the webinar. Before we go into your expectations, I will just recap the rules for this webinar. If you want to ask a question directly in the chat rather than speak, don't hesitate to do so, and Camille will make sure that I will not miss the question. I will not always look at the chat window. Which is actually a very good tip for online meetings. Is actually to have someone to co-host the online meeting with you, and this is what we're doing with Camille. And Phil is taking care of making sure that the show is properly streamed on YouTube. So having people to help you animate your online meetings is really helpful. This is probably the first tip, and something which is very useful to know. So I will start by asking you a question. I have prepared a poll and with a few questions about what is the most annoying problem that you face during online meetings. Thank you. So most people answered that poor sound quality is the key issue for online meetings. The second problems that people face are software problems. About 50% of people find that software problems are one of the most annoying problems during online meetings. The two other problems for which people voted were poor video quality and cluttered background. So which they are kind of related, because if you have a cluttered background, of course, it's not very nice and it's harder to get a clear picture for your audience. Strangely, nobody voted for cats. So I suppose that your cats are at least behaving properly during your online meetings. And hopefully none of you will face the same problem as, you've probably seen the video with the guy who was interviewed on the BBC, and his kid just came walking into during the meeting in the background. So hopefully none of you have to face that problem. Okay, but I completely agree with you. Poor sound quality and software problems are the most annoying problems. And actually, poor sound quality, if people can't hear you properly, it's going to make your online meeting very difficult. It's far more important, in my opinion, to have clear sound rather than clear video. Clear video is good. It's nice to have good video, but it's only second to having very good sound. I have a few tips to share with you about how to organize your home office for online meetings. So the first thing, and this is directly linked to having clear sound, is to have a reliable connection. So I know, and don't shoot me for that, because I probably won't be able to help you, unfortunately, but if you live in a remote region with poor connectivity, or even for some of you, if you are in the center of Paris, sometimes the connection to your building is not always that great. But my first recommendation, of course, is to get a good and reliable connection to your home. It's far more important to have reliable connection rather than fast. Most connections today are able to handle sound properly. Many of them are able to handle video properly, but if it's not reliable enough, it's not going to be much good. So reliability is really the key factor into choosing the connection that you're going to have if you have to do remote meetings frequently. The second thing is one of the problems that you mentioned, which is using reliable software. Today there are dozens of solutions on the market to do online meetings. I have myself used many of them, although probably not all of them. Some of the solutions that I can mention are, of course, Zoom, which is a solution that we use. We are perfectly aware that Zoom has had a bit of a hard time recently about security. If you use a password and if you use a proper ID today with the measures they have implemented, I think that using Zoom is acceptable in terms of security. Of course, if you have something which needs to be really private and really confidential, I wouldn't recommend to use a online platform anyway. But Zoom, the great advantage of Zoom, of course, is that in terms of reliability and being an easy experience for all your users, we think that it's probably one of the best solutions in that regard. We have very little problems, and most of the time people are able to join the meetings without problems. I know Zoom is not always accepted in corporations, which brings me to the second solutions that you can use as software, which are Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams has evolved from a competitor to Slack, to a solution that you can use to either use as an internal chat system, or you can use it to also host meetings on online meetings. And I've used it a few times, and I must say that it works well. It certainly works better than the previous solutions from Microsoft, which was Link and Skype. Among other software that you can use, we try not to make anyone feel like I forgot to mention their software, but you can use Cisco web meetings, and you can use also Google Hangouts. And I think these are the two other big platforms that you can use today. If we have fans of open source software among us today, I must say that it's a bit difficult to, this is one of the areas where it's not that easy to use open source software to conduct online meetings. I will not venture into that territory because I don't have much experience with those solutions. So I wouldn't be able to tell you if they work well or not. So this is the solution for the online online meeting software itself. And if you want to make your experience a bit easier, if you use a Mac, there is something which I use, which is very nice too, which is an application that prevents the screen from going to sleep and prevent the screensaver from starting. So the application is called Amphetamine, and I'm not recommending anyone to take amphetamines. I'm just, this is the name of an application that you can download on the App Store, and I'm pretty sure that you can find something which is very similar for Windows. And but the big advantage is when you do online meetings and your screen goes to sleep after a few minutes, and then you have to go back to your mouse and log back in, or it's very annoying. So that application ensures that your screen will not go to sleep, or your computer will not log you out and you need to log on again to your machine. So that's something which is that's a little tip which adds more comfort to conducting your online meeting. There are many other little solutions that you can use to make your life easier. You can use some software to record the audio, for example, for some platforms. There are some platforms which do not allow you to record the audio, but there are software which exists, which allows you to record the audio of any video conferencing platform. So this is something which might be useful to you. And if you want to know more about that, we can talk about it in the Q&A afterwards. So this is for the software. The silence, of course, is something which is important in the sense that you don't want to make too much noise for the other participants of the online meeting. And as you can see here, I am the only one with the microphone open. And if we all had our microphones open, we'd probably have a lot of background noise, which would probably make it harder for you to listen to me. And this is the reason why you are all muted by default. And this is something that we recommend to everyone, is to make sure that people mute themselves during when someone else speaks. That makes the experience much better for everyone. And for example, on Zoom, you have the option as the host of the conference to mute people by default and choose to unmute or mute people if some people are not paying attention, for example. Well, you can very well mute that person. So if one person is making some background noise, you can just very well cut out that noise very easily. So this is one of the great functionality. And of course, many other platforms support muting participants too. Of course, try to find a quiet place, but I know that you are not always able to choose the place from where you're going to attend the meeting, but at least, maybe the cafe or the Starbucks in your street is not the best place to do an online meeting. It's much better to try to find at least a place where there's not too much background noise to hold your meeting. A nice background. So I don't know if you know, but you can change the background on Zoom. Here behind me, it's not an actual digital background. It's actually just a piece of cloth. You can see that if I touch it, it's just a piece of cloth that I have behind me. This is a very low-tech way to have a nice background, but there is an easier way for everyone to have a nice background. And if you go to the video if you go to the video in Zoom, you have the possibility to choose a virtual background. And that way you can see now I am in space and I have a virtual background which hides all the clutter behind me. And you have the choice of many backgrounds. You can use some animated ones, and you can just choose your own pictures if you want. And this is something that might be useful to you if you don't have the luxury to have a good background to use for your meeting. Then having this functionality will allow you to display any background and hide the clutter behind you. And I will come back to my office now. I'm not on the beach anymore. So, but this is a functionality which is very useful if you want to display something else. This is something that you can do in Zoom, and I know that at least in Microsoft Teams too, you can use that functionality. It's fairly recent. I think it was, you can do it since last week. So this is really something that they hurried to implement. But since last week, you can also hide the background in Microsoft Teams. And I know on Skype, normally, in some versions at least, you should be able to not use a custom background, but you can blur the background so people don't see everything. And that makes it nicer for your audience. Sam is asking me why these backgrounds make the hair and eyes scary. Maybe for the eyes, it's just because my eyes are naturally scary. I don't know. Actually, the reason why, the reason why it's making the hair and the eyes scary is because of the algorithm to detour you from the background. You know, they are unfortunately these algorithms are imperfect, and unfortunately, they are not that good at always knowing what is you and what is your hair and what is the background, which is why sometimes the image doesn't look that good. The only way to solve that is to my knowledge, at least in Zoom, is to use what we call a green screen. A green screen is simply something which has been used in movies for quite some time now. And the green screen is simply a background which is of green color, and it's a very specific green color. It's called chroma green. And chroma green is actually a color which is universally known by software to be a color which can be safely erased and replaced by the background. If you want to improve the digital backgrounds that Zoom or Teams are using, the best way is to get a green screen and use it behind you. Now, about the sound, my recommendation is to get a good microphone. And there are several options. The easiest option is probably just to get a headset with a good microphone. There are many models which are very cheap on Amazon. The step up is to get something which is wireless. You can get, say, Bose 700, or AirPods are really good. I'm not linked to any brand, so I'm not trying to advocate anything, but one of the weaknesses of headsets with microphones is typically that the microphone quality is not great. And the AirPods are universally recognized for having great microphones. So this is the reason why we can safely recommend them, even though they are much more expensive than most headsets. The other option is simply to get a cheap wired headset with a microphone on Amazon. And I think most of them will deliver better quality than just trying to use the microphone from your computer. The step up is to use a dedicated microphone, either a USB microphone or a microphone connected to a sound card. To me, that's not completely necessary to go that step up. First, it's more expensive, and second, it's not as easy to set up as using a simple headset with a microphone. So, but if you want to have the very best sound quality, this is the best thing to do, and this is what I use. I have a dedicated microphone to capture the sound of my voice. Just be aware that these microphones capture much more sound than traditional microphones. So that means that if you are in a noisy place, or if you are someone shouting in the room next to you, people will be able to hear it in the microphone. So this is something that you need to be aware of before you decide to choose that kind of equipment. Okay. Guillaume is telling me that the quality of the AirPods is actually not that great for recording. So, okay. So if you want to do online meetings, but not use them professionally as recorded meetings, then AirPods are perfectly fine. But Guillaume is one of the best Mac gurus on earth, so I will completely trust him. If you want to record something like a webinar or a podcast, then it's much better to get a dedicated microphone, which is the step up I recommended. So yes, I said we like headphones with microphones and AirPods, which are probably the best solution for most of you. We talked about the video quality before, and video quality is actually very important if you record the show. Now, if it's just to see your colleagues, having decent video quality is probably just enough. The reason why you might want to get a better webcam is for two reasons. And the first reason is simply that when you use the webcam from your laptop, the view that people have is from looking from down on you up. So you look like, you look like you look at the angle of view is not great. So having a dedicated camera allows you to place it at a much better angle for people who are viewing your meeting. The second reason is simply that today most laptop cameras are not very good. The quality is fairly low, and in fact, the camera from your smartphone is probably 10 times better than the quality of the webcam on your laptop. Even the most expensive laptops still have very low quality cameras. And the only solution to get around that is to either use the camera from your phone or to use a dedicated webcam. I'm not going to take too much risk there. There are two big brands in terms of cameras. The first one is Logitech, and the second one is Razer. And for a professional setting, if you want to do something which is in a professional setting, probably if you want to get a better webcam and do not want to go the step up, which is to get a dedicated external video camera, I would recommend to take the Logitech 920. And this is a safe choice. It's already a couple of years old, but at least the video quality should be better than what you get from your laptop camera. The other thing to do is to get lighting equipment, additional lighting, if you want to really have the best possible quality in terms of video. This will allow you to two things. First, the image will not be too dark, and second, it will be easier for your webcam to calibrate the color properly, which means that you will not look too dark or too red or too green. This will help with the video quality. Next topic and next tip is to get a large screen. I use a large screen here at my home, and that large screen is allowing me to not only see the slide that I'm showing to you, but it also allows me to see the chat and see the participants to the chat and see my notes. So this brings a lot more comfort to doing online meetings. So to summarize, we have here are the key things that I recommend to improve your home office setup for online meetings. It's a reliable connection, reliable software, finding a place with silence, using a nice background, having a great microphone, a better webcam, additional lighting, and using a large screen. And I mentioned what about security. We already said that Zoom had a bit of a hard time about security, and they have decided to step up and increase the security. My general recommendation is very simple. If you use an online platform, I would not say anything that should stay completely private on an online platform, whether it's Microsoft Teams, Zoom, or any other platform. If you have something really confidential to share, don't use an online platform. Try to find something else. Apart from that, yes, Zoom needed to fix some software security. Just make sure that you always have the latest versions installed to make sure that if there are any security issues, that they have been fixed. So, and my last suggestion for your home office is to stand up during online meetings. This is what I'm doing. I'm just standing up. So, which is for us, it's a much more natural position to speak, and we think this is more engaging for people watching you too. This is it. I have. It's a Q&A time, so if you have any questions to ask me, I'm available to answer those questions. I listed a few things here that as examples, but don't hesitate to ask me any questions about your home office setup for online meetings. And well, I will answer them, and Camille will help me during this Q&A.
Okay, so we have a question from Frédéric. I'm going to read it to you, Pierre. My team need to record webinars at home for a virtual seminar. Do you have any tips I could give them for good quality regarding the light, if we don't have an additional one, as you said? And how long a video recorded should last to keep the participants engaged? Any other tips for that virtual seminar?
Yes, for the lighting, it's better to avoid lighting which is too direct, which means that, for example, if you have half you face in the sunlight and half you face in the shade, the contrast between will be too hard for the webcam, so the quality will not be great. It would be better to be in a room which is properly lit, but with either light from the north or light without direct sunlight, and this will help the camera having constant lighting and improve the quality of image. I hope that is clear. This is the best you can do apart from being in a well lit room. There's not much more you can do if you don't have additional lighting equipment. If you have a brightly lit room, don't face the window, because the light will probably be so hard that you will need to squint your eyes, and that will not look very good on the camera. In terms of length, we think that having good webinars is someone speaking for about 20 minutes, half an hour, and then using Q&A and discussions for the rest of the meeting. Don't make it too long, because it's going to be hard to keep people engaged for too long. I hope that answered your question.
I do have one question. So Frédéric asks you, how long a video recorded should last to keep the participants engaged? But what could be the tips to keep the participants engaged when it's a recorded video?
Yes, probably it's better to slightly edit the video to remove the parts where people hesitate, or when you have something which is not essential. Don't hesitate to cut down parts which are not essential to the message that you want to communicate in your video. So I think having a little editing will probably help making the video more interesting for people. Also, don't hesitate to say exactly what you're going to talk about at the beginning, so people know if they are interested in the content or not. And to recap again the key points, like I did at the end of the video.
Well, we have a comment from Phil. So Phil is saying that in the recordings of our previous webinars, we've slightly cut out some pieces, so the videos are more useful and relevant for people watching the replay. And that's true. Phil did a huge work every time to have the videos nice and clean on YouTube. And I'm sure he will do the same for this one. So if you want to share this video again after the webinar, it's still going to be a possibility. Well, we don't have any other question for now.
So thank you everyone for attending this webinar, and you will be able to watch the replay on YouTube. And one last thing is that for those of you who are interested in following this series, next Thursday is about virtual facilitation. So, and this will be hosted by Phil Wakener. So thank you very much to all of you for attending this, and wish you a very good day, and hope to see you soon again. Thank you very much.